The Callisto Protocol is a spiritual successor to Dead Space in many ways. Many aspects are obviously similar. This is the visual style, the story, and the diegetic UI design is largely due to a striking distance studios being former Dead Space developers, and it shows. While the critical reception to Callisto Protocol has been largely negative, it begs the question, why? This Callisto game aims to deliver a very similar experience. What does the Callisto Protocol do so differently from Dead Space shit that makes fans reject this? Callisto Protocol isn't as different as suspected. It is more likely this horror game is exactly how Dead Space would be if it was made now, and you know it, bitch. There's some case of misunderstood horror game. Find out, cause I'm about to beat this Callisto Protocol review through your fucking skull, motherfucker. Jacob Lee has a problem, and he's about to deliver a payload until a militant guerrilla hijacks his cargo ship. And during the chaos, Jacob's ship crashes on Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons, and the wreck is intercepted by the search team from Black Iron. It's the nearest penal colony. Jacob gets processed and is put in his cell, and it's not long before the entire prison is overrun with humanoid fucked up abominations. In the opening moments of Callisto Protocol story, it moves brisk, and the supporting characters are introduced quickly. And Elias is a friend, inmate, who initiates the escape plot, but sadly does not get the development he needs despite the build-up. And Danny, the sexy gorilla who is the hijacker of Jacob's ship, he ultimately never becomes likable. The Callisto Protocol does the legwork necessary to flesh her character out, but her personality is always standoffish, even in moments that wouldn't benefit her. The scenario has a strong start, and the following 5 to 6 fucking hours revolve mostly around Jacob's situation and trying to stay alive and get from place to place. I know you understand that much. Shit gets real sometimes. And there isn't much story that happens for about 3/4 of the game, and it ain't until the last 2 of the 8 chapters that the plot kicks into overdrive and smashes into your ribcage. The Callisto Protocol backloads most of its story, and the ending is also very typical of the developers who once made Dead Space games, and leaving the player disappointed and hoping for more resolution. The best narrative in the Callisto Protocol revolves around how much Jacob deals with his internal conflict, and what I'm seeing is being put to work is his vocal performance and his mocap. This Josh Duhamel individual, he may be a C-list actor in Hollywood, but in this game, he delivers his best performance. And his guilt and his self-loathing, he shines through his body language and his delusional delivery. Callisto Protocol's story is a disappointingly derivative of Dead Space's, and it is what it is. The broad strokes are too similar. Both games revolve around a cult of power, hungry men who desire immortality, ancient alien disease that transforms people into grotesque Cronenbergian atrocities, bitch. Sorry, not sorry, them shits overlap way too much. And worse yet, the Callisto Protocol fails to be scary, and it has to do with a variety of factors. And let me tell you, the game's atmosphere, it comes off as very standard sci-fi horror. And if you don't understand, in spite of all the efforts to make this one of the most beautiful and realistic looking games on the market, it ends up looking like everything you've already seen. Aping off Dead Space is understandably inevitable, and given the developers, after so many horror games in space or derelict bases and other games or in films that all rely on the same usual suspects like Alien and The Thing, the setting feels all too similar, all too familiar, and there's no restraint at all. The Callisto Protocol is intensely gross and liberal with its depiction of gore, and blood and guts are like a spice, and they need to be used to add some flavor without overpowering the main dish, yite? Yeah, you just took all the entrails and the slimy shit on the screen to the point where you don't even fucking care no more. The other factor why Callisto Protocol ain't scary is because the core gameplay is so absurd and over the top that the game becomes too ridiculous to take seriously. Dead Space's gimmick was shooting the limbs off of generic body horror monsters, men, And the Callisto protocol is all about bludgeoning them with a stun baton and dodging them like a boxer. Melee focused combat in the Callisto protocol is both its greatest asset and the one thing that prevents it from being any scary at all. Despite this conundrum, the developers made the right choice by making the core gameplay different from Dead Space, bitch. Jacob is an unbelievable, capable melee fighter. His swings have an aggressive, perpetual force behind them, and you really feel the blows connect to the pulpy and gooey soft tissue of these lumpy and deformed stupid bitches. Blocking and sidestepping are easy, and they rely on how the player tilts the left analog stick, making it enough for casuals but also deep enough for the hardcore players to experiment with. Combining the Dead Space style telekinesis and the all-new mechanic where Jacob can quick aim with his sidearm while in mid-combo, the Callisto protocol has deeper combat than anything seen in The Last of Us Part 2, and that's a fact. Jacob could also make use of his environment to inflict heinous suffering on those poor devils. Using TK on them to send them into a meat grinder or a spiked wall satisfies that inner desire to have fatalities, especially to do to motherfuckers that you don't like. And the fighting control shit is very fleshed out, and the only problem is with it is that there's not enough enemy types to facilitate its flexibility. Yeah, there are only 2 to 3 actual boss fights. And for a game that focuses so heavily on watching the enemy tells and pattern recognition, it's a missed opportunity to not have more of this. The Callisto protocol is not just throwing down the gauntlet and giving rectal exams with the fat end of a charged club. Some encounters can involve stealth. While it's incredibly basic, it's also laughably effective, and the blind foes who are susceptible to this are also seemingly deaf, since they can't hear loud gurgling and death rattles of the brothers within a yard. Other times, the Callisto protocol will throw some scripted set pieces like most AAA game shit does. A fun water slide that reminds me of the penguin race from Cool Cool Mountain. It amuses, and there's even an MDK style skydive too. Remember MDK? Some parts of Callisto protocol will undoubtedly get you on your fucking nerves, and even the most dedicated advocates are gonna feel it. And the scenario is aggressively linear, often shunting the player forward with no warning. It's locking them out of exploring for resources or audio logs, and this shit wouldn't be so bad if there was a New Game Plus. Nah, there ain't none. And as you may not know, this wouldn't be implemented until sometime early in 2023. And the Callisto protocol really needs this to be improved with some replay value, as well as an option to skip cutscenes. Why any of this wasn't implemented from day one makes no fucking sense, because even the first Dead Space had it. The Callisto protocol being divisive is utterly perplexing. As for full disclosure, I'm not a fan of Dead Space whatsoever. That shit was too loud and obnoxious with gameplay that bored me. The Callisto protocol has a lot of care to make it a more unique experience than just being another third-person shooter.